There was a man I knew in this town for most of my adult life. His name was Raymond. Raymond was the kind of man who showed up to everything: your retirement party, your kid's graduation, the open house when you finally bought a place you were proud of. Raymond was always there, standing near the food, laughing at the right moments, shaking your hand like he meant it. For years, people said Raymond was one of the good ones. I said it too, but I want to tell you something. I've been turning over for a long time now. There is a difference between a person who shows up for your life and a person who shows up to witness it. And that difference is one of the loneliest things I've ever had to understand. Raymond had a brother, older brother, name of Curtis. Curtis was the quiet one, worked with his hands, didn't talk much at parties, wasn't the kind of man who filled a room. But if you needed something carried, something fixed, something held together while everything else was falling apart, Curtis was the one who showed up before you had to ask. The two of them had grown up hard. Father left early. Mother worked double shifts. Curtis had dropped out of school at 16 to take a job, so Raymond could stay in. Raymond never said much about that. He talked about his own accomplishments, the way some people do, like each one arrived on its own, through will and intelligence and luck, like the story started and ended with him. Curtis didn't seem to mind, or maybe he'd made his peace with it. Long before I came along, I got to know both of them through a mutual friend. And over the years, I watched something I didn't fully understand at first. Whenever Raymond had something good happen, and good things happened to Raymond fairly often, he would call Curtis, not to share the news, to deposit it. The way you deposit something at a bank and walk out lighter. Raymond would call and talk about the promotion, the award, the trip he was taking. Curtis would listen, say the right things, and Raymond would hang up, satisfied. And then weeks might pass. Curtis's wife had a difficult pregnancy. Raymond sent a text. Curtis lost that job he'd held for 11 years. Raymond said, "You'll land on your feet. You always do. You always land on your feet." I've heard that sentence my entire life, and I've learned to pay attention to who says it and when. Because what it really means is, I am not going to be part of this. It sounds like faith in you, but it is an exit, dressed up as a compliment. The year Curtis turned 60, his health started going sideways. Nothing sudden, just the slow accumulation of a hard life in a hard body. He had some procedures, spent time in and out of the hospital. Raymond visited once in about 14 months. He brought a magazine and stayed 40 minutes. I know this because Curtis mentioned it to me, not with bitterness, which was the thing. That stopped me. He said it the way you might mention the weather, just a fact about the world as it existed. And I remember asking him quietly whether that hurt. Curtis looked out the window for a moment. Then he said, "You know what's strange? I always knew, I always knew. I just kept deciding that the other parts were enough. I've thought about that sentence more than almost anything anyone has ever said to me. I kept deciding the other parts were enough because there are always other parts, aren't there? The person who makes you laugh, the shared history, the years, the fact that some part of them does care in their way, which is to say, in a way that costs them nothing. And we add all those parts up and we call it friendship, or we call it family, or we call it love. And we tell ourselves that what's missing just isn't that important until the moment it is, until the floor drops out and you find out exactly what you have. Curtis healed up, more or less. He's still here. But something had clarified for him by then. Not anger, not resentment, just clarity. The kind you can only get when you stop arguing with what you already know. He didn't cut Raymond off. He didn't have a conversation about it. He just stopped giving Raymond a place at the center of his life, stopped calling with news, stopped waiting to hear back, stopped measuring the silence and wondering what it meant. And Raymond, for his part, didn't seem to notice for a long time, which was its own kind of answer. I think about the people in my own life who I've let occupy space they didn't earn, the ones who were pleasant to be around, who made me feel useful, who showed up when it was easy and went quiet when it wasn't. People I called close without ever really examining what close meant. There's a particular kind of loneliness in a crowded room where nobody would stay if you stopped being convenient. Most of us have stood in that room. Most of us have pretended. The room felt warmer than it did. What Curtis figured out, the thing that took him 60 years and one long hospital stay to understand, is this: loyalty that only flows in one direction is not loyalty. It is maintenance. You maintain a relationship the way you maintain a machine. You keep it running. You keep the parts moving. You show up and do your bit so the thing doesn't break down. But machines don't love you back. And a relationship where only one person is loyal is really just one person. The other one is somewhere else, living their life, depositing good news and withdrawing when things get hard. Curtis told me once, near the end of all this, that the strangest part was how much lighter he felt. Not happy, not whole, just lighter. Like he had finally put down something he had been carrying so long, he'd forgotten it had weight. He said he had more room now for the people who actually stayed, for the silences that didn't feel like absence, but like rest, for a version of himself that didn't spend energy managing what other people thought of him. And he said he wished he'd done it sooner. Not dramatically, not with some speech or confrontation, just sooner allowed himself to see clearly. Because the truth is, most of us already know. We know which relationships cost us more than they give. We know whose name on our phone makes us brace instead of smile. We know who we edit ourselves around, who we perform for, who we protect at the expense of ourselves. We know. We just keep deciding the other parts are enough until one day, maybe after something small, something almost embarrassingly small, like a 40-minute visit in a magazine, we stop and we find out what the quiet on the other side of it actually feels like. Sometimes it feels like loss, and sometimes, if you sit with it long enough, it feels like coming home. I wonder sometimes if Curtis ever told Raymond any of this. He never said, and I never asked. Some truths are too quiet for that kind of conversation.